Hello and welcome to the great telco debate of 2021. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content at TelecomTV, and for the second year running, we are staging the event online due to restrictions arising from the escalating COVID situation. Our debates have been broadcast live over 3 consecutive days. You can see the full schedule of debates here, and there are more details on the TelecomTV website. We start today, our final day, with debate number 5, Edgenomics, and follow this in about 2 hours' time with our closing debate on telcos and the hyperscalers. And just as we would have done in person at our London event, each 50-minute debate will feature a mix of expert witness statements from our invited guests, an accompanying motion that we want you to vote on, and a Q&A discussion with questions from our audience. Joining me for today's first debate are my colleagues Ray Lemaitre, Editorial Director at TelecomTV, and Chris Lewis, CEO of Lewis Insight. Ray, we've been covering the Edge and Edgenomics for quite some time. There's still plenty of questions around the telco's role here.
Yeah, absolutely. The analysis and discussions have been ongoing for years, but this is still an area where the CSPs are figuring out what best suits their customers and their operational models, and still lots of unknowns, which is why it's a great topic for this debate. So don't miss out on the chance to ask our panel of experts a question. Submit them now and do it quickly, as we'll be asking the questions on a first come, first served basis. Back to you, Guy.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Get your questions in as soon as you can, please, and use the form that we provide on the website. Now, it wouldn't be the Great Telco Debate without Chris Lewis and Graham Wild, who have written the motions for the debates, and it's these motions we want you to vote on. Chris, remind us again, how do you decide which one of you votes for and which against?
Well, Guy, this time of year, Graham and I meet up to go through all the motion topics, to finalise the motion topics, and we literally toss a coin or roll a dice to decide who speaks for or against. And of course, under current circumstances, neither of us have a coin in our pocket. So it was a dice this time. Why on earth Graham had a dice in his pocket, I don't know, but he did.
One of life's great mysteries, that. Well, early this week, Chris and Graham got together to record the all-important motion that edge computing offers CSPs a significant opportunity to change their relationship with customers.
We chose this motion because it's important to put the connectivity piece of Edge into the context of the other IT components, storage, compute, analytics, and applications in order to deliver the services. But more importantly, to get closer and closer to customers and supporting those business environments and, of course, consumer environments.
I'm speaking for the motion. And I think it's still unclear exactly what we mean by edge computing. But I think that we can say that in general terms, it means having server power closer to customers and allowing them to benefit from lower latency and perhaps higher bandwidth communications. We're seeing that in private networks, in the gaming world and so on, that customers do want these kinds of low latency edge computing services. They want artificial intelligence on their premises or near their premises. Telecom providers have got the capability to provide not just the computing power, but to provide the whole package, including a managed service, which they may buy from Amazon or Microsoft. So I am for the motion.
I'm against this motion because I believe the work that is required within the telecom industry to drive that more efficient engine really needs to work on that network itself and not on the outside world. And furthermore, the other parties in the digital ecosystem are much closer to the customers. They provide what we're trying to do with all of the connectivity. They're not trying to overtake everything. They're taking those digital building blocks of connectivity, storage, and so on, and actually building a service closer to the customer. And furthermore, the edge is so undefined as to what it actually is that I believe the messaging to the customer base is so widespread that nobody really understands what the edge is, and therefore concentrating on providing the right connectivity to underpin whatever the digital IT environment becomes is more important for the telecom industry.
Well, later in the show, we'll see if Chris and Graham manage to sway your votes. Time now for our expert witness statements, and these will then lead into our Q&A discussion and hopefully give rise to some interesting questions from our audience. So let's now go and meet our special guests. Hello everyone, thank you all for joining us for this year's Great Telco Debate. It's time for our opening comments, and as always, we are imposing a strict time limit of 3 minutes max for each of our expert witness statements. So let me first introduce Terje Jensen, who is SVP and Head of Global Network Architecture and Director of the 5G Readiness Strategic Programme Technologies and Services at Telenor. Terje, good to see you again. May we please have your expert witness statement?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and great to contribute to this discussion. So just maybe 10 seconds introduction of Telenor. So we are having more than 189 million customers in 9 different countries. And just to go straight on the questions, we are actually having commercial customer contracts within Edge and typically related to private networks. But of course, as we have having paying customers, there is a kind of a small indication that there are room also for us as an operator to play in this space. So as I said, the answer is tending to be on the yes side from my perspective. It's more the question on how to do it. And I think what we actually are coming from as an operator, of course, there is no secret that we are coming from the connectivity. We also see value, and we also see demand from building on top of that. It could be like what's mentioned earlier as well. It could be like on the compute and also storage on the local level. It could also be on security. It could be analytics and a number of things which also the customers want to run in the environment, which is also processing their specific needs. So we are have been doing quite many number of pilots, and also, as I said, having commercial contracts on this. Across a number of areas or industries, or if you want. So expanding, for example, manufacturing, logistics, it's also looking into some of the public services, typically so like health, for example. Also the critical and mission critical, like for example in emergency services, the media distribution, also in the military part, for example, and those kind of applications and the demands. And what I think it's fair to say that we see that the market is in motion. So there is movement. There are initial demands. And we believe also, I guess, coming back to the question, that there is a value for us. There is an opportunity for us to engage in this. Important, as we see it, is that you have to sit down with specific customers and come into the dialogue. And we can come back probably later in the session on that. Even in the same industry, we have a number of different demands, a number of different cases. Even for take the health sector as an example, we have at least 5 different activities, similar kind of customers in different parts of the world, coming with 5 different demands as a starting point. So it's important for us to actually, if you want to take part in the value creation there and also the value capturing there, you need to sit down and talk with the individual customers. So that, of course, it's both on the customer side, but also need to get the technical solutions and also the partnership portfolio in place. So I'm leaning towards, yes, there's an opportunity. There is time to start right now to engage in this. And there is kind of excitement also journey ahead of us if we get it right.
Thank you very much, Terje, for your opening statement there, and introducing the key question of how we do this, and a reminder that we mustn't forget our customers. We do need to communicate with our customers. Next, I'd like to introduce Beth Cohen, SDN Product Strategies at Verizon. Beth, thanks for joining us on the Great Telco Debate. Can we now please have your expert witness statement?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So Verizon's been in this space for quite a few years now. We launched the Virtual Network Services product, which really spearheaded the Edge revolution, coming up on 4.5 years now. And last year we launched an additional product called Application Edge, which sits on top of the Virtual Network Services platform. And let me state that the telecommunication providers are well positioned to really take advantage of the the edge and provide services to our customers. In terms of that, we own the network to our customers wherever they be, and edge can be a combination of the far edge, let's say IoT devices in the field, it's utilities, oil and gas, mining, healthcare, across many verticals, and edge, and to get to that edge, you need to have a network. So I believe that the telecommunications giants are in a good position to provide those services to our customers. We're already embedded there, and adding the applications is it's a relatively small set. Also, we have the capability of providing the analytics tools, the network traffic patterns. We see a lot of things in the network that really supports these applications, and that's so critical. The applications need to be more tightly integrated with the network to optimize the edge performance. And edge is not only the gaming, which provides the telco edge, but it's also, as I mentioned earlier, the IoT and far edge devices. So it's really a very complex ecosystem, and I think the telcos are well positioned to really support that ecosystem, working with the hyperscalers and with our customers to deliver those applications and edge services that our customers are requiring.
Great. Thank you, Beth, for your opening statement. So very clear, CSPs are well positioned, thanks in large part to their ownership of the network, but we still must not lose track of the all-important applications and edge applications. So let me now introduce our next guest, Andrew Coward, General Manager, Software-Defined Networking at IBM. Andrew, good seeing you on the program again. Can we now have your expert witness statement, please?
Of course, and good afternoon, everyone. So at IBM, we see the sands kind of really shifting about where the location of the edge really is, and moving further and further out to what we might call the far edge. And this is really a consequence of the chip manufacturers coming up with a combination of compute, of AI capabilities on chip, of storage, and 5G capabilities, kind of all wrapped in a nice package. And these are going to have a very profound impact in many industrial, finance, and retail environments. I want to give you a couple of examples that we see really playing out as to what this means for service providers. So as an example, we've been working with Boston Dynamics, who have created a robot dog, which you may have seen on television, and very smart that dog is. Very interesting applications. So imagine that the dog is shipped to a factory in Houston or Malaysia. It's unpacked. As it's unpacked, it then connects into a 5G network to find out if it's where it's supposed to be. It could be a private 5G network, it could be public, find out what it's supposed to do. The first job of that robot is to go patrol the factory floor, look at all the industrial equipment and check the heat signatures of all those equipments, level set that, has infrared cameras, and make sure, of course, that none of the equipment overheats, because bad things happen on the factory floor if that were to occur. It goes back, recharges, comes back out, and now it's doing a stock read of all the different pallets that have come in, what's moved, what's changed. Nighttime comes, it changes into a sentry guard, looking for intruders. Fire alarm goes off, it gets a different program. It's now guiding firefighters to any people who are left in the building. 4 very different applications, 1 robot, and 4 different requirements from a bandwidth perspective, from a connectivity perspective. Those 4 applications might well all be in very different clouds, have different latency requirements, have different connectivity requirements. Obviously, taking stock from a stock taking perspective is very different to providing a 4K video feed to a firefighter. And so these create absolute opportunities, and we see similar kind of opportunities then playing out in retail with cameras monitoring stock and what gets taken on and off the stock, digital shelves, all of these kinds of things. And so when we envisage that each of the things that are in these environments are connected, they may not actually pass through compute that's local in that site. It may go straight into the cloud, into a MEC location, into one of the hyperscalers. And so as a consequence, we have this kind of great opportunity to make sure that the connectivity that's provided there, along with the ability to deliver services and compute, is delivered end to end. And that's why this is so exciting, and that's creating the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for your opening statement. It's certainly a complex picture there, but as you say, there are plenty of opportunities that CSPs could at least look at and investigate. Well, our next guest joining us live on the show today is Renu Navale, Vice President, Data Platforms Group and General Manager, Smart Edge Platforms Division at Intel. Renu, welcome back to the great telco debate. Can we now have your expert witness statement?
Sure. Thank you, Guy, for having me on the show, and it's great to be back along with all our colleagues over here. To add to what my esteemed colleagues have just said, I believe edge computing it's about delivering experiences, the economics or economic value to our customers, as well as ease of use. And in order to deliver these capabilities to our end customers, you really are looking at low latency, you're looking at better bandwidth utilization, data security and sovereignty and privacy, as well as making the most out of every piece of data that has, that can deliver some value to the customer. So we're really at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what edge computing, the opportunity the edge computing can offer to the ecosystem, including to the operators or the CSPs. Now, what in order to again deliver these things, what we're seeing is edge computing along with connectivity like 5G wireless, pervasive AI. All of this is creating, what I call a multiplier effect, which is requiring for our ecosystem to come together in the form of, compute, storage, analytics, and deliver various types of use cases that can again eventually deliver this experience, economic value, as well as the ease of use. And we're seeing, this rise up in, industrial manufacturing, where, you can use all of these technologies to deliver, better defect detection using 5G technologies, as well as, deep learning inferencing and analytics in order to deliver better, deep quality, therefore better economic value to, the industrial manufacturers. We're seeing similar use cases in healthcare, in retail, in smart city, ports and logistics, and several different, vertical industries, including, media, gaming, and entertainment. So, in my opinion, we're still at the beginning of this journey. We're still at the tip of the iceberg. The opportunity is yet to, completely unfold as you bring together this multiplier effect of edge, 5G connectivity, analytics or pervasive AI, media and video workloads, as well as other types of, networking or IoT workloads. So definitely, I believe that the opportunity for the CSPs as well as the wider ecosystem is immense.
Thank you very much, Renu. Three clear objectives for CSPs there: experience, economic value, and ease of use. Well, let me now introduce our next guest, Martin Taylor, Office of the CTO, Azure for Operators at Microsoft. Martin, it's good to see you again. Can we now please have your expert witness statement?
Thanks, Guy. Very nice to be here. We absolutely see lots of value is going to be created at the edge. We're tremendously excited about it ourselves. As has been said, the edge is really about a nexus of 5G, edge computing, and AI and analytics. It's the coming together of those three things and the new possibilities that they enable that is getting everyone excited here. Again, as has been said, the ecosystem is complicated. We've got connectivity in the mix, we've got the edge compute, itself. We've got platform capabilities running on that. Then we've got applications on top of that. And this certainly raises the question of, well, who's actually driving? Who's actually going to take the initiative in situations where investments need to be made? What's the business case, and who stands to gain the most? Of course, it all really comes down to the applications. The edge is not about build it and they will come. It's about identifying those applications that benefit from being deployed at the edge and building the infrastructure out to support them. Now, what we're seeing right now in the market is the early traction, the low-hanging fruit in these edge applications. It's around Industry 4.0, manufacturing, logistics, transport hubs, a certain amount of retail. And the applications are quite heavy on video analytics. So, we see a lot of QA inspection. We see safety management. We see footfall analysis in retail situations. And, a lot of that is leveraging AI and video analytics and so on. But a lot of these applications are actually best served by private 5G networks. And, I think one of the questions there is going to be, well, what part do network operators play in that? Now, there was a debate on Wednesday in Great Telco Debate about private 5G. I gather the audience were quite heavily in favor of the CSPs will actually be playing here. I'll leave it at that. Now, public edge computing, I think, is a very different story. I think, the question there is, well, what are these applications that are going to drive public edge? Clearly, the CSPs have a big part to play here because the traffic will be traveling over their networks. And I think you have to get a bit futurist to think about what the applications are going to be. Dare I say, metaverse, pervasive mixed reality, in both consumer and enterprise applications, I think could well be it. And in that kind of if those are the drivers, then clearly hyperscalers are going to play a very, very big role here, because those applications need the AI, the video rendering capabilities, the big compute stuff, the platform capabilities that the hyperscalers have to offer. But CSPs also stand to gain a lot from promoting those applications for public edge compute.
Thank you, Martin, for your opening statement. You raised a number of good points there, like who takes the initiative and who benefits. I would now like to introduce our final guest for the Edgenomics debate, Stephen Spellacy, who is VP Service Provider Marketing, Enablement and Business Development with the Service Provider and Edge Business Unit at VMware. Welcome, Stephen. Can we now have your expert witness statement?
Thanks, Guy. Great to be here. In my opinion, my position is CSPs should definitely strive to push forward to monetize edge services for the enterprise. There's a host of verticals such as, smart healthcare, manufacturing for Industry 4.0, smart city initiatives, all of those where we're seeing an abundance of innovation happening that's in the network and now emerging at the edge. Things like private networking, private 5G, and industrial IoT use cases, which require the CSPs to be in this game. When we talk about edge, what essentially we're talking about is a delivery of network, compute, and storage service that's latency sensitive and proximity aware. In other words, it understands what you need, where you need it, as you need it. And as CSPs are making huge investments in their next generation networks, they really need to start thinking much more about increasing monetization. They need to do that now in order to drive higher levels of ARPU later. And the edge is that opportunity that brings those two things together. I think CSPs are well positioned to leverage their existing infrastructure, their central offices, their multiple points of presence. These are all footprints that give them a kind of local or regional advantage in order to deliver edge services. A potential path forward in parallel could be partnerships with the likes of the hyperscalers, who are obviously, very fixed on this particular space. But it's also for the CSP an opportunity for them to tap into the hyperscalers' rich marketplace of services and apps that they offer. These are the things that enterprises want to use, and they'll ultimately use at the edge. Now, combining these capabilities from compute, storage, and a high-speed network with these rich set of apps, it's going to provide the enterprise that they serve the ability to transform, make that digital transformation happen. And this is ultimately what I believe CSPs should be fixed on. In addition to the hyperscalers, CSPs can also extend their existing capabilities by leveraging key partners in the middle mile. These are folks that can deliver resources on demand and power those next generation of immersive apps that you'll see at the edge, and that are going to also help enable the enterprise transformation. So lastly, I think they need to take advantage of this opportunity now in order to deliver edge to the enterprise. And what's needed is a consistent approach to reach operational scale, one that's going to have a high performance, low latency, modern platform that's going to be designed multi-cloud by nature, intrinsically secure, and something that's going to offer them operational flexibility as they scale this business up and out.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So the message is very clear. Act now. And also thanks for bringing up these middle mile relationships. That's another important relationship that we must not overlook. Well, thank you everyone for your opening statements. You've heard from our expert witnesses. Now it's time to challenge them. So please send us your questions. Don't delay. We'll get through as many as we can. Akira Tada of SoftBank wasn't able to make it to this live show, but he still wanted to contribute.
That's right. I spoke with Akira earlier and asked him if it matters which companies build and manage edge computing resources. If the hyperscale giants provide the edge platforms, is that a good situation for the communication service providers?
I really don't think that it is matter which types of company to build edge computing systems. What is very clear for mobile network operators is you do need a partner, and edge compute the element of edge computing is the part that you can find and you can work with a partner, and probably this is the same for partners to find a way how to work with mobile network operators, and like things happening in fixed network world, you need a partner on the computing side, and the edge computing is the one you need a help from someone. So I do think that we do need a partner to manage and deploy and manage edge computing systems.
And our thanks to Akira for his contribution to the great telco debate.
Yes, indeed. And Chris, we've had a range of views from our expert witnesses, plenty there for our viewers to digest. Have you got any thoughts and a first question perhaps for one of our guests?
I always love it when a motion and a topic gets such a great set of responses from the contribution today. Thank you very much, everybody. And I think the bit of the motion which I think is key for me is about getting closer to customers. And I think that came out in quite a few of the statements there. So yes, we have a massive range of industry with a lot of skills in different parts of the world and different parts of the ICT area. But actually, how do we get close to the customer and what they're trying to do? And if I might have one question, Terje, perhaps from your point of view, in your opening statement, you talked about the different countries in which Telenor is operating and how you're getting many different types of edge requests coming in. Is there any indications to why it's so different? Is it because you have fixed and mobile in some places and just mobile in others? Is it the sort of businesses you're dealing with? Is there any pattern that you see emerging about what defines those edge requirements from those customers?
No, it's a good question, I think, and of course, a lot of us are coming from that. We need to standardize, industrialize, and define what you are delivering. But in reality, it's the value for the customer is actually who's important, I think. And what we see right now is that, as I said, an example, we are engaging with 4 or 5 different customers, all of them in the health industry. And they are even in the neighboring countries. So of course, all of them have this long-term view that they would like to run a number of use cases. And I think that was a comment before. We see that a customer case will include a number of use cases. But the first use case to start with could be very different. And that becomes, take for example the health sector and the health authorities. There we have one customer who actually are building their brand new hospital. They would like to have in-building coverage there and on-campus control of local network, and all the digital and patients' records should be stored there and so on. We have another in the same health authority, same country, different region, actually who would like to avoid building a new hospital. So they are rather, instead of bringing the patients to the hospital, they would, let's monitor the patients where they are. So we are providing connectivity, we are supporting the sensors there, we are providing also the edge compute and analytics to run there to monitor the patients, and then, as I said, they also give the indication or alarms to the medical personnel if they want to take action and so on. So I think it's basically that's where the customer problems, what they face today. And I think they are going to look into more and more the similar use cases as the customers and the industries are maturing. But typically they have, looking upon what the problem I want to solve today, and then starting from that. And we see the similar things also in quite a few of the other industries, that even though they're working in the same industry, the first problems to start with might be different. That means the first use case to start with might be different. And that's why it's so important to sit down with the customers and get into the dialogue and see what are the first step, second step, and so forth, and to be part of that solution and be part of that journey.
Thank you, Terje. And thanks, Chris, for that question. Ray, we've given our audience plenty of time to send in their questions. So what have we got for our panel of experts?
That's right, Guy. The questions have been coming in while the expert witnesses have been giving their statements. So let's kick off. The first question says that the telcos are well positioned to capitalize on edge because of their existing infrastructure and physical proximity to customers, but there's always a but. They also have historically been too conservative about or late to adopting new capabilities. Will this time the operators launch edge-based horizontal platforms and develop vertical solutions, which in a timely fashion could bring them very lucrative returns? Do they still have time to do this? So the question is, have the telcos missed the boat to develop their own horizontal edge platforms and still make a lot of money, I guess, out of edge services? Would anybody like to come in and start with a response to that question? Beth, let's come to you first.
So I actually heartily disagree with that statement. Verizon has been, I have found over the last 5 years, we've actually been ahead of the curve to the point where, we launched Application Edge a year ago. And the analysts were like just scratching their head. They just didn't even understand what we were doing. But what we were doing is we are delivering a platform to our customers that allow them to put applications out at the edge on top of a box that takes care of all the other, the network connectivity. So the customer has like a neat little package. Think of it as like a mini cloud on the edge that allows them to, put whatever application they want on it. And we include tools that allow them to manage it centralized, allows them to connect to their cloud provider of their choice. It's a multi-cloud solution. So it gives them sort of everything in this nice little package. And so we are running ahead of the curve, definitely not behind. We're not being conservative about this. The telcos are, at the end of the day, we're engineering companies and we're engineers and we like new toys.
Okay, thank you, Beth. And Terje, we'll come to you next.
Yeah, thanks. So I broadly agree with Beth. I think there are quite a few operators who are actually started on the journey there as well. And there are probably quite a few out there in the investor community which is scratching their head and wondering why we're doing this. But I think on top of what Beth is saying, I think it's important that it's of course not that we have to do everything in-house. So partnering, I think that was commented by someone earlier as well, partnering and selecting some components from partners and putting those together into a solution which are then meeting the customer cases are important as well. So there are ways to do it in order to pick up speed. I think what probably is behind the question as well, it's not only about technology and about solution, it's also the way of work. And that I think is so important, why you need to sit down with the customer, you need to get into the dialogue, and it's a different way of work, which is rather it's a kind of a transformation, if you really want, into many of the areas within an operator. So it's not only on technical solution and putting the pieces together, but it's also the way we are working, I think, which is important. And the journey has started.
Okay, thank you, Terje. And lots of hands up here, so I'll come to Martin next.
Yeah, so I'd agree that there is a class of edge applications that could well be supported on an edge cloud deployed by telcos. But I think for the edge application ecosystem to scale, the developers of those apps are going to expect the kinds of platform capabilities that only hyperscale clouds can provide. When you're trying to build an application and be productive about it, being able to leverage AI as a service, storage as a service, event processing as a service, video rendering as a service, those are the kinds of, and of course the whole CI/CD toolchain, the ability to regularly update your apps and in a safe way. Those are things that it's very, very difficult for a telco to offer out of an edge cloud. So I think that, as Terje said, partnership is going to be super important here. I think it's going to be a case for a lot of edge applications. It's going to be a case of telcos providing connectivity, hyperscalers providing the edge compute platform on which these applications run.
Okay, thank you, Martin. And we'll come to Andrew next.
Yeah, I think this is a productization problem. As we look at, for example, enabling a factory floor or a retailer, we're in danger of getting into integration hell, if you like, with all the complexity that can create all different types of things that are going on in those environments. So to me, productization is a partnership. It's not about a partnership with the hyperscalers per se. It's about a partnership with the industrial machine manufacturers, with the camera manufacturers, with the things that will essentially be an enabling device. If we think about how that's evolved in the consumer world with things like Ring door cameras, and security systems in your house and so on, they're packaged and they're for mass consumption. So if you think about a digital imaging device or a car or a robot, then the same rules kind of have to play out. The difference is that we're going to have to give a unique characteristics to the network for those devices in perhaps ways we don't today in other worlds. And so that partnership directly with the manufacturer is going to be the key to unlocking repeatable, productizable revenue.
Okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. And Stephen, you wanted to comment on this as well?
Well, great comments across the board. I'd say if I could summarize my thought on this is that enterprise don't speak telco, and most telcos, some do, but most don't speak enterprise. And I think the gap between understanding the business, how it operates, what its requirements are, that's a void that telcos have. There are some that are tapped in, they have some vertical specificity, they have some great services and acumen in their business services teams to be able to deliver solutions to those kinds of customers in a variety of verticals. But it's not a one size fits all, unfortunately. So the use of SIs, as well as that rich ecosystem of partners in the ISV space and as well as the device makers, as Andrew said, is really critical. It's really looking at a 360 view at what the customer, the enterprise, is aiming to accomplish. Why are they choosing to use this type of connectivity or computer storage at the edge in order to transform their business? So CSPs don't natively get that without having an investment in that kind of domain expertise. I'd say what can help bridge the gap between those two worlds is having a common sort of translational bridge of infrastructure that the enterprise knows as well as the CSP. And where we've seen success at VMware is having that technology that's common both between the CSP's layer of managing their telco cloud infrastructure, managing their MEC infrastructure, managing their RAN infrastructure, and also translating that over that same technological approach to the enterprise. It's the stuff they know, use every day, and trust. And so if you can speak at that basic layer, that's a beginning of the conversation. But then layer on top of that vertical and industry domain expertise And I think that's a combination of things may not come natively to CSPs, but with strong partnerships and alliances with SIs and ISVs and device makers can really fill out that equation and help the enterprise transform.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. And Chris, I could see that you were eager to come in on this topic as well. Do you think that the telcos still have plenty of time to get involved here and that they're not being too conservative in terms of the edge?
What I'd like to say, Ray, is actually, I think Thierry nailed it here, which is that you need to sit down with the customers. And I don't think the telecom industry has got the breadth of people inside, nor the channel to have the, as we just pointed out by various statement, people to actually sit down with those customers. You know, it's the bigger picture, and there's other people already sitting at the table with the coffee and the croissants ready and already having those conversations.
Good that we've got coffee and croissants in here. We've had tea and scones and coffee and cake so far, so good to have the croissants in as well. Thanks, Chris. Okay, let's come to our next audience question. And that question is, in terms of making money and improving customer experience, is this really all about enterprise applications and mainly private wireless networks in the near term? So does anybody want to comment on that? Stephen and then Renu.
So my belief is that private wireless is sort of the first app at the edge. It's an enabler. It's not the be all end all, right? It's the stake in the ground in which you will build apps and experiences around. You know, connectivity is, for all of us on this session, we're talking about connectivity. We all have communications backgrounds. We work for either CSPs or vendors who cater to the ICT industry. So we all just get excited about big pipes and fast networks, right? And intelligent networks. But reality is, the customer really cares about what they can do with the network. And what they really want to do is transform their business. So private connectivity, yes, is the first edge app in my belief. And then what follows, the next act, are a series of enabling technologies that can be put in place to drive greater levels of productivity, visibility. Things like computer vision inside a factory, where it may be a latency sensitive process that requires a higher speed network. Can't do that with the existing network they have. They want a dedicated special purpose network. They need that first stake in the ground and then build applications around it that prove and add more value to their business, what they do best, what they need to do to make their businesses profitable.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. And Renu.
Completely agree with Stephen. I feel like he stated a part of what I wanted to state as well. I agree with him that private networks is like a means to an end. It's the enabling technology that allows enterprises to say, hey, I have now new technology that can coexist with my wired and Wi-Fi and offer additional reliability or security or network slicing and lower latency and others. And with that, being able to identify new ways, new use cases, new ways to impact their business in a positive manner. We're seeing new interest from not only Industry 4.0 or manufacturing, but also healthcare companies. We're in this wave of the pandemic where healthcare companies are going, hey, what can I do with private networks? How can I do better telemedicine or better digital pathology or other types of use cases? We're seeing smart cities looking at it going, how can I use this to better offer better capabilities to our customers roaming in the cities, or better security, safety, all of that. So I really believe that this is again like the start of enabling new technologies. Like in the past, we had the app store started, and we started to have this flood of applications that's led to how certain industries are being transformed, Uber, Airbnb, all of that. I believe that, hey, this is the start, and we're yet to see, what can be, what can result, what type of use cases or what type of industry transformations can result as a result of this type of enabling technologies.
Okay, thank you, Renu. And then we'll go for a very quick comment from Beth, and then we'll move on to another audience question because we're running out of time and we've got plenty to get through. So, Beth, we'll come to you on this. Is it all about enterprise?
I think we really need to focus on the application, and I view the private Mac piece as the cherry and the icing on top, and that will, as Renu said, give that extra layer of security. But at the end of the day, the enterprise is focused on the application, and the network is a means to the end.
Great, thank you very much, Beth. Okay, we'll come to another audience question. And that is, and this really is about, who wants the biggest piece of the pie here? Can CSPs get the leading position in Edge without having the lead position in B2B business? And I'm going to blend that with another question here, which is, for the communication service providers, is Edge really just another connectivity play for them? So can the telcos get a leading position? And even if they do, is it really just about providing the connectivity and very little else? So does anybody want to come in on that? Because, well, in the early days of Edge, I think we've seen, and in private wireless networks, we've seen a lot of reports that suggest that telcos are involved, but maybe as secondary partners and not as lead partners. Chris, I can see you're wanting to come in on this.
I think it goes back to the comment I made previously that if we take the To Kill a Mockingbird approach and stand in the shoes of the customer as they look out at all of this industry, the combination of all the industries we're talking about here, connectivity is subordinate to a lot of other things, applications, as Beth just said. And therefore, the channel that they see to go through to get access to these new building blocks is the critical element. And I just don't see the CSPs having that channel at the moment.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. And Beth, we'll come to you next.
I think there's some truth to what Chris said, but I think it's important to understand that we absolutely need to be in partnership with the hyperscalers, and we need to be in partnership with the SIs to make it all work. I see it as a giant business ecosystem that's in the process of forming, and we've just started down the journey. Edge as a concept, widely known as a concept, has only been around for a few years now, and what it means and how all the different players participated in it is definitely still coalescing. So I think over the next couple of years, it will become more obvious. I think the hyperscalers were a little late to the game out at the edge, although they're very aggressive right now in pushing it.
Okay, thank you, Beth. We'll come to Terje next, and then Andrew. Terje.
Yeah, I will be very brief, I think. So I would lean towards yes. There is an opportunity for CSP also to be in the lead on this in a number of cases, I think. So I think it's important to come from the customer value in a way, and what kind of solution the customer is asking for, and what is most important in that composition. And I think it's what has been mentioned in several times in this session as well. There will be a number of components which need to come together. They will come from different partners. And clearly, I think we see in several markets there is an opportunity also for the CSP to be in the lead and taking the leading role of this.
Okay, thank you, Terje. And Andrew, and then Martin.
Yeah, I think for IBM, we see it as a partnership, and certainly with the telco partners that we work with, there isn't a beginning and end of that. It's one product, one partnership. And so whether it's IBM sellers selling that, whether it's the telco sellers selling that, it kind of comes to the same place. And I think increasingly as we kind of move down this edge path, it's going to be hard to separate what's network, what's compute, and what's application, that they get delivered as one seamlessly to the customer. And that's certainly our intent and how we see the outcome happening. And again, it goes back to my productization point earlier. You just simply can't scale without doing that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andrew. And Martin, to close us out today.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think there is a class of edge applications which are very connectivity centric. And I mean, vehicle to X, for example, might be one of those cases where unless you've got ubiquitous connectivity, you don't have a starting point. It does seem to me that the CSPs do have an opportunity to kind of seize the nettle on those kinds of applications and drive it and pull in behind them, the automotive manufacturers and the application developers and so on. But with connectivity as the lead service that really drives the whole thing.
Okay, thanks, Martin. And unfortunately, that is all we've got time for. That programme went very quickly. Thank you to everybody for sending in your questions. Sorry if we didn't get to yours, but we are out of time. Guy, back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ray. We do need to bring our discussion to a close. We've got another debate still to come today, which means that it's almost time to tally the audience votes. So to remind you, here is the motion that we have asked you to vote on. Edge computing offers CSPs a significant opportunity to change their relationship with customers. But before we reveal the results, let's first see which way our guests will vote, either for or against. Well, you've all heard the motion, so let's have a show of hands, please. All our guests in favour of the motion, raise your hands now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any advance on 6? Unlikely. Well, there's no point me asking those of you who are against the motion because you're all for the motion. That is well and truly a collective vote for the motion. Thank you very much, everyone. You're great sports. Thanks. And let's now go and see how this compares with our online viewer vote. Our expert witnesses have voted overwhelmingly. But what did you decide? Well, the voting is now closed. And here are the final numbers. Motion carried. Well, not quite as comprehensively as our studio guests. I think that is carried by, 78% for and, I can't do my maths there, 22% against. Chris, are you surprised or did you expect this result?
As ever, Guy, when we raise these somewhat sensitive, complicated ecosystem questions in the debates like this, we tend to get the industry voting for itself. I think what is really important, and it came out throughout all of the comments here, is that the relationship with fellow players in the ecosystem is really important. And actually, I don't believe CSPs can assume they're going to be the prime contractor deliverer of the service, but they do have an essential element to contribute to it. So I think raising awareness of how people outside of the telecom industry see this is really important, and don't always vote for yourselves as an industry.
Yeah, that's why we have to communicate and listen to our customers and our partners. Ray, your thoughts on the result?
I'm just surprised that 22% of people think that the edge isn't an opportunity for the telcos to better their relationships with customers.
Well, with that thought, Ray, that brings our programme to an end, at least the Edgenomics debate to an end, because we'll see you both again for the next debate, which starts in about just over 1 hour, practically an hour. However, before we go, thank you to all of our sponsors for supporting this year's Great Telco Debate and our online programme series. And of course, a big thank you to all our guests, our expert witnesses. You all did a great job today. Thank you all very much indeed. A reminder that the Great Telco Debate continues. We're back in about 60 minutes time, pretty much exactly 60 minutes time, for our final debate of the year, which looks at the relationship between the telcos and the hyperscalers. Don't miss that. Please keep sending in your questions. There's no need to wait for the show to begin. We really appreciate your early contributions. For now, though, from all the team here at TelecomTV and the Great Telco Debate, thank you for watching and goodbye.